They were the couple that made the world fall in love. Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze. Dancing, smiling, staring into each other's eyes like nobody else existed. To fans, it felt real. Too real. But while they were lighting up the screen in Dirty Dancing, there was someone watching quietly from the shadows. Someone who knew Patrick better than anyone. Someone who saw what the cameras didn't. His wife, Lisa Niemi, had been by Patrick's side since they were teenagers. She was his first love, his dance partner, his everything. And yet, when Dirty Dancing exploded into a global phenomenon, Lisa wasn't part of the story. Jennifer was. Now, years later, Lisa has opened up about what it felt like to watch the world fall in love with her husband and the woman dancing beside him. What she says is heartbreaking. What she doesn't say says even more. Because when you look at Patrick and Jennifer in those scenes, when you see the way he held her, you might start to wonder, was it all acting? Or did Jennifer Grey cross a line she never should have? Before the world ever saw Patrick Swayze on a dance floor with Jennifer Grey, there was Lisa. Long before Dirty Dancing, long before Hollywood, Lisa Niemi had already fallen in love with the man who would one day steal the hearts of millions. They met at just 15 years old while training at the Houston Ballet Dance Company. He was the charming son of a choreographer, and she was the quiet, focused girl who moved with purpose. It wasn't just puppy love. It was discipline, connection, years of pushing each other to become better, not just as dancers but as people. By the time Patrick began breaking into film, Lisa wasn't just his wife. She was his foundation. They married in 1975, a full 12 years before Dirty Dancing would come along. She knew everything about him. His insecurities, his drive, his deep longing to be taken seriously in an industry that often saw him as just a pretty face who could move. By 1986, Patrick had earned critical attention from films like Red Dawn and Youngblood, but he hadn't yet become a star. That would change the moment he stepped into the role of Johnny Castle, a role he almost didn't get. And the woman standing in his way? Jennifer Grey. Jennifer Grey had already worked with Patrick before Dirty Dancing, on Red Dawn, and she didn't love the experience. In her memoir, Out of the Corner, she openly admits that she found Patrick too intense. Too macho. He joked too much. He was always trying to make her laugh between scenes, and she found it distracting. When casting began for Dirty Dancing, and his name came up, she hesitated. She didn't think he was right for the role, but the producers wanted to see them together. One last audition, a screen test, so Jennifer agreed. And the moment they stepped into the room and started to move, everything changed. She would later say, "It was like a match struck." Patrick took her in his arms, and suddenly, there was nothing but silence and heat. Everyone in the room felt it. Even Lisa. Though she wasn't on set every day, Lisa Niemi knew that kind of chemistry. She had danced with Patrick her entire life. She had felt what it meant to let him lead, to be wrapped in his strength and moved like you weighed nothing. She knew exactly how intimate that was. And now the whole world was about to see it. Despite the chemistry, things weren't always smooth between Patrick and Jennifer. Patrick, in his own memoir, The Time of My Life, admitted that Jennifer often broke character. Laughing, crying, or getting flustered, threw off his rhythm. He was a trained dancer, precise, focused, and sometimes she got under his skin. But that tension, that friction, it translated to the screen in ways nobody expected. Their love story wasn't polished. It was raw, emotional, messy, real. So real that fans began to wonder, was there something more going on? To this day, Dirty Dancing is remembered as one of the most romantic films ever made. Not just for the story, but for the way Patrick looked at her, the way she melted in his arms, the way their bodies moved in total unison. And while millions of women were falling for Johnny Castle, Lisa Niemi was watching her husband be that man for someone else. Lisa never publicly lashed out, never accused, never showed signs of jealousy, but she was there. She was there when fans screamed for him at events. She was there when interviewers asked about his love scenes with Jennifer. She was there when the world began referring to Dirty Dancing as a true love story. And Patrick? He tried to stay grounded. He always credited Lisa, always said she was the love of his life. But he also acknowledged the chaos that fame brought. As Dirty Dancing climbed the charts, Lisa saw something she couldn't unsee. The entire world falling in love with her husband because of what he had created with another woman. And even if it was just acting, it didn't feel like fiction. Not to her. As Jennifer and Patrick became America's favorite screen couple, Lisa Niemi remained silent. But years later, after the applause faded, after Patrick was gone, she finally opened up, not to point fingers, but to share what it really felt like to love a man who gave the world a piece of himself that only she had ever known. Lisa Niemi had always been by Patrick Swayze's side. Through the ballet world, through struggling auditions, through the highs and lows of early Hollywood success. But Dirty Dancing changed everything. Suddenly, Patrick wasn't just a working actor. He was Johnny Castle, the smoldering dance instructor that every woman in America was dreaming about. And Jennifer Grey wasn't just a co-star. She was the fantasy, the one people believed he was in love with. And Lisa? She became invisible to the public. While magazine covers plastered Patrick and Jennifer together, Lisa stayed at home, quietly watching it all unfold. Fans wanted to believe the story on screen wasn't acting, and that belief hurt. In her memoir Worth Fighting For, Lisa never names Jennifer Grey. But her words make it clear how difficult it was to watch the man she loved become an international heartthrob, especially when it was another woman by his side in all the footage, posters, and interviews. She writes, "It was hard watching women throw themselves at him. He was devoted, but he was also human. You have to be strong to be married to a man everyone else wants. You have to remind yourself that he still comes home to you." Those are the words of a woman trying to be okay with the fact that the world wanted what she already had. But behind closed doors, it wasn't always easy. Lisa shared that Patrick never gave her a reason not to trust him, but that didn't mean she didn't feel pain. In the years that followed Dirty Dancing, she admitted to moments of distance in their relationship. Fame had changed things. Patrick was working constantly. The pressure of maintaining the perfect Hollywood image, combined with the physical strain of dance-heavy roles, began to wear him down. Lisa supported him through it all, but the emotional cost was real. The very thing that made the world fall in love with him, his chemistry with Jennifer, the heat of their on-screen relationship, was something Lisa had to relive again and again. Every time the movie aired, she was the one who had danced with Patrick in real life. She was the one who had trained with him for years. But Dirty Dancing gave that connection to someone else, and she couldn't forget it. Years after Patrick's passing, Lisa Niemi finally began to share her side of the story more publicly. Her memoir became a love letter to their life together, but also a deeply honest reflection on the struggles they faced, both in public and in private. She never accused Jennifer Grey of anything. She didn't have to, because her pain came through in the spaces between the words. In one chapter, she describes the emotional weight of standing beside a man the world believed belonged to someone else. You see your husband on stage or on screen, and everyone falls in love with him. They scream for him. They write letters, and you're proud. But sometimes, you wonder if the man they love is still the one who comes home to you. She doesn't name Jennifer. She doesn't mention Dirty Dancing directly, but readers knew. The pain was never about a physical betrayal. It was about the way the world rewrote her love story and cast someone else in her place. Perhaps the most haunting part of Lisa's story is not what she said, but what she had to live through in silence. Every interview Jennifer Grey gave after Patrick's death was met with headlines about unspoken romance and electric chemistry. The press kept reliving the fantasy. Meanwhile, Lisa had spent 34 years married to Patrick. She was there when he was struggling to pay rent. She was there through his injuries, through his cancer diagnosis, through every rise and fall. And yet, her love story was always in the background. The public wanted Patrick and Jennifer, but Lisa knew better. "The world saw what they wanted to see," she wrote, "but I knew the real man behind the eyes. I held his hand through every storm, and no one can rewrite that." Her words weren't loud. They weren't bitter. but they were final. Lisa Niemi never blamed Jennifer Grey. She never needed to, because in her quiet truth, you could hear everything she didn't say. And while Lisa was telling her side in silence, Jennifer Grey was finally ready to tell hers. But when she did, it raised just as many questions as it answered. For decades, Jennifer Grey stayed mostly silent about what really happened behind the scenes of Dirty Dancing. She'd occasionally give lighthearted interviews, share funny memories, or praise Patrick's performance. But it wasn't until her 2022 memoir, Out of the Corner, that she finally told the truth as she remembered it. And what she said was complicated. Jennifer wrote that she and Patrick were not close before filming Dirty Dancing. She even resisted working with him again after their experience on Red Dawn, where she felt he was playful, maybe even immature, and hard to connect with on a serious level. But when they walked into that screen test, something changed. All I can say is there was something there. I didn't know if I trusted it or even liked it, but I felt it. She described their connection as electric, but also tense. There were moments of warmth, like when he apologized for their earlier work together, and moments of friction. He was polished, trained, focused. She was reactive, emotional, vulnerable, and yet, together, it worked. The spark that lit up the screen didn't come from deep friendship or personal closeness. It came from that push-pull, the emotional tug-of-war that played out in every scene. They weren't lovers. They were actors, dancing on the edge of something that felt dangerously real. To this day, Jennifer has never suggested anything romantic happened between her and Patrick off-screen. And she never commented directly on Lisa Niemi or their marriage. In fact, when Patrick passed away in 2009, Jennifer was one of the first to release a statement, saying, "When I think of Patrick, I remember a man who was strong and real and brave. He was a rare combination of raw masculinity and tender sensitivity. It was respectful, kind, but also distant. No mention of late-night phone calls. No stories of bonding after long rehearsals. Just a recognition of what they created, and a clear line between what was real and what was performance. But for fans, that line was always blurry. And for Lisa Niemi, it may have been too blurry. Dirty Dancing gave the world a love story that felt timeless. Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze became something larger than life. A screen couple that people still believe were meant to be together. Their chemistry, their connection, the way they moved together, it made people believe in love. But behind the screen, behind the music, was a woman who had already lived that love story. Lisa Niemi was there before the cameras, before the fame, before the world took Patrick and turned him into someone else. She loved him through the hardest years, held his hand through the darkest nights, and stayed silent while the world imagined a different woman in her place. She never lashed out. She never accused. But through her memoir, her interviews, and her grief, she revealed the emotional truth only she could tell. You can love someone with your whole soul and still feel like the world is taking them away. That's what Dirty Dancing did. It made people believe, but it also made one woman watch her husband become a fantasy, one that didn't include her. And that's why, all these years later, Lisa Niemi's quiet words echo louder than anything said on screen. Because she knew the truth. She lived it. And for just a little while, the man she loved didn't belong only to her. For more emotional legacy stories, love, loss, and what really happened behind the scenes, check out this next video.